Hello and welcome to the absolute worst map of this run of Fire Emblem Order of the Crimson Arm, 100% growth, low turn count playthrough. You may notice that this footage is being sped up. That's because this map otherwise is 30 minutes long. It's just a huge grind map, as I said in the last chapter. All that we're really doing is waiting 10 turns for the boss to show up. Because the chance of success in this chapter is determined when the boss shows up, I mainly just screwed around and improv'd, which bit me in the ass, to be blunt. We deployed a couple of units that you don't normally see. We deployed Cynthia and Ileana, mainly because I thought I might deploy them in a later map, so it would have been nice just to give them slightly higher stats. This map is incredibly boring, and there's not really much to talk about until much later in it. All we're really focusing on doing is capping out the stats of our units that don't already have cap stats, and capping out the weapon ranks of the units that do. Celia needs just a bit of bow grinding. You may notice we've also deployed Tanya. She's going to be a bigger mainstay for the rest of the run. She doesn't do anything super important, but we would still like to put some extra stats into her so that she can kill a few enemies in endgame. We would like to deploy 3 flunkies for killing enemies in endgame. We got a new unit in the preps of this map, and we never end up deploying him. He's a sage. I don't know his name. He's the only unit who would have a growth over 200%, because his growths are all stupidly high, and he has pretty decent bases. However, I'd like Tanya more, and she has a better, even though her stats and weapon ranks are worse, when it comes to just the flunky duty, it doesn't matter which unit we use. There are a couple of villages in this map that we visit as well. One of them matters, the other two really don't. I use Shine a bunch here to try to get Tanya's light rank up. Getting an extra 5 crit will help her do her flunky duty. I should have bought a few more Elfire tomes in the previous chapter, in hindsight, because it would have meant that I can get Elaine and Claire to have higher tome ranks, which would have mattered a tiny bit. This game's become pretty much a curb stomp. Most of our units are practically impervious. We're working on building Negu's sword rank up a little bit by giving her the Lance Sheather. It doesn't end up mattering, and in fact I should have focused on her Lance rank. She can use the Brave Lance, but I would have preferred if she could use the Silver Lance just to one-round a couple of generic enemies. She has also been demoted to flunky duty after chapter 19, but she's served us incredibly well. The main units we're focusing on now are Alchemist and Wayland. It may not seem like we're focusing that hard into Alchemist, but he's going to clear out a section of the map on his own. Well, mostly on his own. Because this is all improv, nothing that you see here is rigged. As such, I do actually prefer reliability in some cases. We're also getting a little more experience into Camille. I thought she might be useful as a flunky with 2 to 3 range, but she never ends up mattering in the late game. There's one map in particular that I thought it might be worth training Cynthia and Ileana for, and I waited until this map because they can get good experience here, but it never ended up mattering. I never even considered deploying them in that map. We care about weapon experience on Elaine more than normal experience, however, as a Valkyrie, she gets an experience bonus. Aside from defense, she has now capped every relevant stat. You will hear me saying that a lot. I asked on a community poll in my channel if people wanted to see this map done without commentary and just the gameplay footage, or with commentary and the gameplay footage sped up. People voted for with commentary. However, we use an iron longbow there to get more weapon experience. However, I will also be uploading a normal speed version of this at some point as a bonus video. No commentary. It will be very boring to watch, I can assure you. It was very boring to play. Don't ask why Tanya's there. I don't know. We got an energy ring there, and we do end up using that on Wayland. He's the only unit whose strength is actually kind of important at this point. We could have given it to Alchemist, but it's harder to get Wayland's strength up, because he has a higher cap, and he has a higher level. Admittedly, I probably should have given it to Tanya in hindsight, because Wayland would have gotten the strength anyway. But it was just a safety measure. I believe that is cap strength on August. This is kind of dangerous for August to be doing. I admittedly should not be doing this. We're using Barrier and Mend with Clara because we want to get her to B rank staves. A rank staves would be preferable, but B rank is good enough. It allows her to use Physic. We get a second body ring here. Maybe even a third. I don't remember. There's no real unit that should have gone to. I could have given it to Clara, Elaine, anybody, really. Hell, I could have given it to Camille. All three of those units are weighed down by their tomes, and it would have made them able to double some enemies more. Elaine is never going to hit S-rank tomes, unfortunately. I believe she comes really close to hitting it, though. But we still are trying. I still tried. Because there was no reason not to try. Her absolutely massive physic range comes into play a lot more than you'd expect. If I gave the energy ring to someone like Clara instead, I could have had Clara Cat Magic and have an even bigger physic range. However, it doesn't end up mattering. Because Clara can't hit A staves. If she did hit A staves, then it would have mattered. I realized when I was recording this that Alchemist may not be enough to solo the part of the map that he's going to. A boat full of enemies will arrive there momentarily, so Alchemist will get a chance to grind up experience and his weapon rank. The boss comes in the top left corner. I was originally going to feed him to Boleslav, but then I realized that may not exactly be the easiest thing to do, so I ended up just bringing 3 units over there. Or 5 units, I don't remember exactly how many, just in case. These enemies are high leveled, so Alchemist is going to be getting a lot of experience from them, which is good. There are 4 more turns left of this. I admittedly should have given August the Delphi shield, but she needed a lot of weapons for this chapter anyway, so it evens out. Note that when I call a unit a flunky unit, that doesn't mean that they're useless. It just means that I use them for smaller filler combat duty roles as opposed to being a mainstay. I wish I had more Nosferatu tomes. Probably could have bought some in the last chapter. I never bothered checking because Camille doesn't get used much after this. She's demoted to as another flunky. Alchemist should be totally fine handling that section of the map on his own. I realized that it would be a good opportunity to grind up Sven's axe rank at that point. I should have equipped just a Shine Tome on Tanya there. That is my mistake. She wouldn't have killed that Sage even with a crit. Steel Lances don't grant the double weapon experience like they usually do in GBA. I still ended up using it though. Sven's C-rank Lances actually starts playing a role soon. Which is quite nice considering we grinded quite a bit for it. You can't tell, Elaine ends up being one of the more important units in the run, even though she already was, but she ends up capping most of her stats. Well, all of her stats, rather. She is, I believe, the highest level unit at the end of this run. Her combat parameters are really good. Yeah, you might have noticed something, by the way. This map and the previous map are the first two maps since we got her that we haven't deployed Lonnie. There's a reason for that. We don't need her in this map. This map is a grinding map, and Lonnie has capped all of her 11 stats and has hit S-rank Lances a long time ago. If we deployed her, we'd just be down a unit slot, although it would have been nice to have the extra security that she brings to the table. Now that we've routed most of the map, I start moving units around. Just to help out with things. Clara will be staff spamming for most of the game, most of the rest of the map. There's not much left to say. This is the final turn of this map. We drop Tanya over and we kill this hero with Alchemist. We use an axe there, not for the double weapon experience, but actually just for the 2 rounds of combat, so it gets chip and kill experience. It is S-rank swords, so Aelin can go back to using silver swords and killing edges now. Just for the extra might. Just to ensure that he got that kill for the experience, I used a claymore. That is S-rank Lances on Alchemist. And I was originally planning on giving this kill to somebody else. but I accidentally set it up for Tanya, which is pretty funny. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for a map that is not super boring. This is the sword that Wayland will be using later on. I'll see you next time for an actually interesting map this time.